Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. It's almost game time for the Mustangs as they take on Wake Forest on the road, looking to stay unbeaten in ACC play. I'm Embody, Hayden Howerton here. We break down the game, the matchup, give our predictions, and more on this preview edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, which starts right now.
Remember when your biggest worry was finding parking at Dallas Hall? Now it's protecting your home, your car, maybe even that first business. That's where Northwest Insurance Agency comes in. Exclusive coverage designed by Mustangs for Mustangs who've galloped into the real world. Protect what you've built and move forward with confidence, because once a Mustang, always moving forward.
Northwest Insurance.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
That is right. Happy Thursday. It is preview day at ontheponyexpress.com, and make sure you subscribe for just $1 for your first week. Join us on the message board. It's been a blast ever since the Mustangs kicked that tail in over in Clemson, South Carolina. And, of course, Hayden Howerton here with me again this week to preview the game. Hayden, SMU is headed on the road to face Wake Forest, and you might want to take out a little insurance policy with our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. 214-352-5656. They'll protect you from everything, including upset alert, apparently. So Mark Villasana and our crew over there at Northwest Insurance looking out for you, helping you navigate rates, coverage, and more. So 214-352-5656 is where you can find him. Because, look, if SMU loses this one, last weekend is all for naught, and you're going to need a whole hell of a lot of Socorro tequila to wash those sorrows down. But SMU gets an early kickoff, which I think is important, and they will be hoping to keep this conference win streak unblemished.
Trap game, unfortunately. You get the big win last week at Clemson, but you got to flush it. It's on to a new week. You have to maintain that next man up mentality. Who is the next guy on our schedule? The Wake Forest Demon Deacons. And you get a noon kick as well, which kind of also adds to the scariness of this game. You know, it's 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. You're at Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You're on the CW. There's all these factors, but it does not matter up to this point. SMU's 5-2. You're 3-0 in ACC play. You get that huge win over Clemson in Week 8, which I think is a program trajectory improving win. But if you go out and you lay an egg this weekend and you don't do what you need to do, like you said, it's gonna essentially ruin last weekend. But SMU started the season 2-2. I had plenty of people in my DMs talking about how they don't care about this team anymore, how this season is a wash. But SMU comes out of Death Valley 3-0, and you're staring down the barrel of ACC conference play. It's tough to travel in this league in back-to-back weeks, but hey, that's part of the gig we signed up for, to try to be in this conference. You know, you're the only team in the middle of the country, so you're going one of two ways, no matter which way you look at it. Later this season, you're going to get a really good Miami team after this week. They tripped up against an underrated Louisville team, who we will also play later this year. You've got trips to Boston College. You've got trips to Cal, but none of that matters if you goof off and you don't beat Wake Forest this week. If that happens, you need to rely on other people. Let's just do what we did last year, man. We'll run the table, and that way the only thing that we can control is us, because as long as SMU keeps its seat behind the wheel as the driver of this thing, they're going to be fine. But Wake Forest almost beat Georgia Tech. They had a week to prepare. I think this is going to be a more difficult week than people realize, Billy, but you just have to have that short memory and put Clemson behind you.
Yeah, it is. It's a difficult week from the standpoint of, like, you know, that team was amped, you know, coming off the field. I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you were there and you were able to hang around post game, you could see that win at Clemson meant so much to this team, and so they're going to have to flush it. It's going to be something that, you know, if they go 3 and out that first drive, or if they give up some yards on the opening drive on defense, people are immediately going to, you know, jump all over it or whatever. And this team is really going to have to make sure that they don't go in the tank and let this thing snowball, because Wake Forest does play really hard. But look, you talked about being in the driver's seat. You don't want to be in the driver's seat when you have a bunch of Socorro tequila. We encourage you to drink responsibly, but enjoy yourself with that clean tasting tequila over there from our friends at Socorro. Really appreciate them for supporting us, but also get in the driver's seat of a new vehicle from our friends at the Thomas Auto Group. So appreciate the Thomas Auto Group for supporting us at On the Pony Express. And of course, go up 75 to McKinney. Learn about the Thomas Promise today.
At Thomas Auto Group, the Thomas Promise includes the low price promise,
the pre-owned promise,
and the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, home of the Thomas Promise.
That's right, Hayden. And let's jump into this promising review of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons and this entire university. I'm really stoked to get over there. I actually toured it when I was looking at colleges briefly. It was a really, I don't know if I think we were on the way to maybe a recruiting trip somewhere else. And so we just stopped through on the way to some other schools, but got to see Wake Forest briefly, walk around campus, and then we were out. I mean, it was maybe a few hours. I don't even know if we did an official tour, but I remember it, and we kind of left it, and it was kind of like, all right, we're not going there. It was nothing bad. It was just like you kind of got a feeling, and certain places that you went to on those trips, I'm sure yourself. And Wake was just one where I just saw it, thought it was cool, really, historic campus, and then we were out of there, and I was like, okay, nice stop, on to the next.
I guess this is going to serve as my visit to Wake. Wake was my one ACC offer, so I get to go to the place that wanted me to play football in the ACC and ultimately turned them down and joined SMU instead. But we are talking about the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who opened their doors in 1834 as Wake Forest Manual Labor Institute, which made me laugh whenever I realized that. It was named after a plantation in Wake County that they called the Forest of Wake. And it moved actually from Wake Forest, the town, to Winston-Salem in 1941 to follow the School of Medicine. It was religiously affiliated with the Baptist Church until the 1980s, which is where the deacon portion comes from. But before the Demon Deacons, they were known as the Old Gold and Black or the Baptists. But after a win against Duke in 1923, the newspaper reported that the Deacons fought like demons, and so the Demon Deacons were born. Kind of just getting into some of the history of the football program. It is one of the oldest programs in the country, 137 years old. They were independent until 35 when they joined the Southern Conference with Clemson. And then they were a founding member of the ACC in 1953.
Talk about hitting pay dirt there, being in the ACC from the get-go. Congrats.
Yeah, no doubt. But 2 conference championships in this league, 1970 and 2006. No natties, no Heisman winners. But let's talk about head coach Jake Dickert. Washington State's head man for the last 4 years before making the move over to Wake Forest. He went 23-20 at Washington State, kind of saw the writing on the wall as they were essentially getting a demotion from Power 5 down to Group of 6. But you get hired at Wake Forest when Dave Clawson retires after 10 years with the program. 4-2 so far at Wake Forest, and the record is okay. They're at least getting it done in the win-loss column. You do have the 10-9 win over FCS, or former FCS, don't want to give any disrespect, Kennesaw State, one of the lower teams at the FBS level this year. But notable alum for the Demon Deacons, you've got a few NBA stars, Tim Duncan, Chris Paul, Muggsy Boggs, who's the shortest player in NBA history, but also Wake Forest's all-time leader in assists and steals. And then I'm going to have a couple of these over the weekend. Mr. Arnold Palmer is a Demon Deacon. At the stadium, a legacy Federal Credit Union Stadium, capacity of 31,500, smallest in the ACC, smallest in the Power 4. It is a field turf playing surface, but SMU comes into this game with a 3-game win streak against Wake Forest. 2 games in Dallas. The most recent game in 1975 was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Mustangs won all 3, including a 14-7 win back in 75. So hopefully SMU extends this streak to 4 in a row, but it's pretty cool that I get to bring you guys some of the history. I do enjoy doing that for y'all. Please let us know in the comments if you guys also enjoy that. But Billy, before we get to the offense.
Yeah. If you're looking to make like me and get out of Wake Forest and Winston-Salem as quickly as I can on Saturday, I would encourage you to look up our friends at Status Jet. They could have helped me get out of that college visit real quick. But I can tell you, they will give you that attention to detail that you would expect from a charter jet company. They could put you in a big plane, small plane, helicopter even. Make sure you reach out to them and plan the next trip of a lifetime or something special for your friends, your family, your work colleagues, all those things. Status Jet can help you do that. And make sure you mention on the Pony Express when you book so you get a discount on your round trip flight with our friends at Status Jet today. So we keep on rolling on the podcast preview here. This is where we jump into the nitty gritty of this Wake Forest team, and it's a really interesting setup here, as the play caller is not your traditional position coach that you would expect for this.
We've got Rob Ezel, the tight ends coach, is our offensive coordinator and play call. So I guess expect to have some of his room kind of weaved into the game plan a little bit this weekend. Last year in 2024, I think a lot of people remember they ran the slow mesh. It was under a different offensive coordinator, but they essentially are hanging in the mesh for about 2 or 3 seconds before making a decision. They're not doing much of that anymore in 2025. They run mostly 11 personnel. They're in more of a spread, and Coach Ezel described it as a power spread, which I've heard before. Essentially, you're describing 90% of the offenses in modern day college football. So 53rd total offense, 409 yards per game, 51st in scoring, or in passing, excuse me, with 249 yards per game, 8 yards per attempt, which is something that I've got circled, I've got highlighted. It is something to watch for. I think just they're getting a lot of their plays over the top through the middle of the field. They're not just completely taking the top off the defense. I do think they have some speed. But rushing wise, they're still middle of the pack at 63rd and 160 yards per game. 4.85 yards per carry, 13 rushing touchdowns. So when they get down there tight in the red zone, expect a lot of the run game. It will be something to watch with SMU's strong rushing defense. Scoring defense, they're 68th in the country. They're scoring less than 30 points a game at 29, and they only have 6 turnovers all year. 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Club takeaway will need to make an appearance in order to make a difference in this ball game, because you pair the 6 turnovers and they've only given up 6 sacks. That's top 15 in America. I think their quarterback is pretty shifty. South Carolina transfer quarterback number 2, Robbie Ashford, 6'2", 220, a true dual threat guy. He sat behind Lenora Sellers last year, kind of learned how Lenora Sellers goes about business. 59.9% completion, only 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So not really a strong passer. He does keep you guessing a little bit. He's rushed for 233. He's got 4 touchdowns on the ground. He's actually the second leading rusher on this team. But the leading guy, running back number 1, Damon Claiborne, rushed for 1,000 yards last year in 2024. This year, he's got 69 carries for 539 yards, almost 8 yards per carry. So this is a guy that if he gets in the open field, look out, because he has hurt teams on the ground. 8 touchdowns as well for him. Pair that with Chris Barnes, who's their leading receiver. He's just a redshirt freshman out of North Shore. I've played against North Shore. They put out a ton of athletes in the Houston area. He went for over 100 yards in their last game against Oregon State. All 3 of his season touchdowns were in last week's game. So got some explosive playmakers on this offense. I think there's some guys that have really started to kind of hit their stride, especially when they played Oregon State last week. They started slow, only scoring 10 points against Kennesaw State, but this offense has improved every week so far.
And I think, Rhett Lashley said he expects Robbie Ashford to be back, and I think that's probably how they're approaching it, but he's been nicked up. Being that running quarterback is something that, you can certainly keep an eye on there as far as if you see Deshaun Purdy, their other quarterback. He has played a little bit and is, completing 51% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, no picks, noteworthy there. But certainly somebody that isn't really the rushing threat that Robbie Ashford is. I've seen a lot of Robbie Ashford. This is, I know never say never with this SMU defense this year, but this actually kind of sets up. This is a good test, right? This is, can your strength, the run defense, be your strength, and you shut down Claiborne? That would be ideal, because then Robbie Ashford's going to have to beat you with his arms. And let's be real, He'd probably hit one explosive, but I just don't think he has the consistency to be that big of a threat. And last week or last game, they had a bye this past week, but Deshaun Purdy did play and completed 14 of 27, 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against lowly Oregon State, who also fired their coach. So quick change over there as well from what they have set up since Jonathan Smith left for Michigan State. I think, is that right? So bad test. That Kennesaw State game to open this year, holy cow, 10 points in a 10-9 win. Similar to how we felt maybe about SMU last week going into the Clemson game, which team was going to show up. It's very much a which team is going to show up this week against Wake Forest as well.
Yeah, and really, which side of their defense is going to continue to show up? So, defensive play caller and defensive coordinator Scotty Hazelton, linebacker coach. He was actually Mel Tucker's defensive coordinator at Michigan State before this. So, the guy has some serious talent in the coaching world. But scheme-wise, they're mostly 4 down. They're going to kind of rotate between 2 and 3 linebackers depending on their nickel packages. Against SMU, you can certainly expect to see kind of both ways, depending on if we're bringing in Stone Eby, then they're probably going to go the true 4-3. But hey, if we're spreading the ball around, they're going to go nickel, possibly even dime. I don't really see them getting into a bunch of quarter at this point with 7 DBs because of how strong our run game is. But total defense, I think they're pretty solid. They're 32nd in the country, 322 yards per game. They're only giving up 20 points per game, which is good for 33rd in the country. 12 touchdowns, 10 field goals is what they've allowed. 27th passing defense, only 6 passing touchdowns. When you think about SMU, and while SMU certainly can run the football as far as getting the short yardage touchdowns, Wake only giving up 6 passing touchdowns is highly concerning because I think a lot of SMU's offense is built on, okay, let's take the top off the defense. Let's hit Jordan Hudson or Romello Brinson on a deep ball early, and that way we can open up the passing game. Well, if that's not going to be there, then you're going to have to grind this one out a little bit against the 61st rushing defense in the country. 141 yards per game for this Wake Forest defense. Also only giving up 6 rushing touchdowns. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, against this defense that is not giving up a lot of touchdowns. I think they're giving up, a decent amount of yardage. I mean, yes, they're still top 40, but the only 12 touchdowns on the year, that's top 20 in the country. So turnovers, they don't get a ton on defense. 3 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, 95th in the country there. And then 13 sacks so far, 56th in the nation. SMU's offensive line put up a great performance last week against Clemson's defensive line. They obviously are one of the best pass blocking units in the country. We have to see this run game come along this week. And it's going to be tough because you're looking at the defensive line, number 99, Mateen Ibaragba, 6'3", 296. He's the highest graded Demon Deacon that they've got. He's got 18 tackles, 3 sacks. He's about 30 snaps per game. He's not an every down guy. Very talented run stopper. Really long arms, plays with great leverage. Pair that with defensive end Langston Hardy, 6'4", 250. He's a pass rush specialist. He doesn't really want to stop the run to stick his nose in there. 4.5 sacks, though, so far on the year. 33 tackles. He had 44 all season last year, so he's taking a bigger piece of this defensive role. And then you pair him with corner Karan Prunty, 6'2", 192. He started his career at Kansas before transferring to NC A&T. He's only allowing 43% completion when targeted. I'm interested which receiver of ours they're going to put him on. I would bet it's going to be Jordan Hudson with the contributions that he's had lately. Only 10 catches allowed so far, 4 pass breakups and 1 touchdown allowed. This is a big opportunity for whichever receiver ends up opposite of him to kind of showcase your skills against an underrated ACC corner. He doesn't even break the top 10 ACC corners. I think he's more talented to where I think he probably has broken into that group at this point of the season. But it's a great opportunity for our receiving core to set the tone for the rest of the year.
I think so as well. And I think also something that stands out to me about their schedule is I feel like they haven't really played some explosive offenses. NC State is, their one loss, not one loss in their one loss in league play. So they're kind of in a situation where, or at least I think they're one loss in league play. I just had the schedule up. Yeah, Georgia Tech won. So, of course, NC State was their other one, 34 points on them. That's probably the closest thing kind of schematically that I feel like Wake Forest would have faced, kind of similar to SMU, and they kind of failed that test. Other than that, though, you face Georgia Tech, kind of ground and pound. You face Virginia Tech, which is kind of in shambles, was only able to put up 23 points. Oregon State's Oregon State at this point, and then they really haven't played like too many other teams. So that have a pulse. The line, I appreciate it being 3.5. Trust me, I'm really intrigued to see if this is a game that SMU can kind of almost opposite of the initial Clemson line. Like, okay, Vegas really baited everybody with the whole trap game thing. You'd love to see SMU just take care of business and have this one be a, kind of low stress 17-point type of win. Because again, Wake hasn't really played anyone outside of Georgia Tech. So they play really hard and they've played a competitive schedule as far as close games, but it's also, okay, have they been challenged is I guess my question, which we'll find out a little bit about this weekend as they go into it. But I can tell you what, it's challenging sometimes to maintain your business's exterior and landscaping and all those things. And that's why we've got our friends at OPW Solutions to take care of your commercial landscaping, power washing, snow and ice control, and more. AJ Crow, an SMU alum, is running the show over there at OPW Solutions, a new friend of the show and supporter of us, a good friend away from the show as well. And you can be sure to trust your work and your business with OPW Solutions. They can go through your commercial landscaping plan. Of course, they can restripe a parking lot, Christmas lights, fence maintenance, and more. So give them a call, 214-444-3305, or email them info@opwsolutions.com. opwsolutions.com is where you can find more on what they can do for your business. Again, full service commercial exterior maintenance company that can do it all, and they're servicing Texas. They're expanding their reach in the future, and they're really going to be a great partner with us here as they go from North Texas to Oklahoma to Arkansas and beyond. So be sure to get them on your speed dial for your business and start working with them today as OPW Solutions, new partner with us at On the Pony Express. So appreciate their support of us on the show. So Hayden, we continue on previewing this game and the keys to the game. What say you? You had a pretty good outing against Clemson, and now you look to continue the hot streak.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So that's what I'll chalk that one up to. But as far as the keys to the game for Wake Forest, I think you just have to shake off the hangover. I've been a part of too many big games where the following week you literally feel like you were drunk last night. It's hard to get up. It's hard to get going, especially for an early kick. I think this has got to be one that if SMU is going to have a lot of success on Saturday, and this has been my key to the game the last, I think, 3 weeks, you got to score first. You got to start fast, and you just can't come out of the gate stumbling. You got to come out swinging. Wake Forest does not care that you just beat Clemson. If anything, it puts more of a target now on your back as, like we've talked about, SMU has established itself as a front runner in this league now over the last 11 conference games, to where there is no more sneaking up on anybody. There's not going to be who's this SMU team, or where's SMU at anymore? People know who we are, and they're going to be gunning for us at this point. The second thing, you got to get Kevin and the pass catchers going. You had such a great week of prep last week. The scheme was amazing last week. I think this week you got to have 3 passing touchdowns, and you got to take care of the ball again. I got no interceptions as a key there. And then you got to get after Wake Forest quarterback. No matter which one it is, their offensive line has done an exceptional job of protecting the quarterback. Only 6 sacks on the year, like I said previously. You had defensive line step up in a big way with 4 sacks and 8 TFLs last week. I've got 2+ sacks and 10+ pressures as a key to the game for this D-line. I think they can go in there. I think if they wreck shop and throw this offense off its rhythm, I think we're going to have a lot of success defensively.
Yeah, I think defensively, I'm almost not. I don't want to say not worried. I'm starting to get to the point where the defense kind of reeling me in a little bit. Their play against the run I thought was outstanding against Clemson. Obviously, Clemson's been in a little bit of a blender there offensively. There's no doubt about that. But secondary wise, I thought they did a good enough job, obviously, to win the game. And then Wake Forest's skill position guys are just not up to that Clemson level. I think even the tight end involvement that I thought early in the game, Clemson I think maybe converted a third down relatively early with one of their tight ends, and I was like, okay, all right, this guy kind of killed them a little bit in the conference championship game. That was going to be a problem. They shut that down. I don't know. I think this is a get right game in a sense for everybody. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to trust this SMU team. Don't get me wrong, but they will probably manage this game in a unique way that probably keeps the score close. But I still think this is one maybe similar to like Stanford where you don't feel incredible about it, but the game is never in doubt.
I like that take. My whole
Yeah.
thing is with SMU playing up and down to the level of its competition all year, this one is hard for me to just say, yeah, we're going to roll in there and steamroll these guys.
100%.
It's not going to be easy. You travel across the country. Wake, I think, by record, is underrated. I mean, their performances haven't blown me away, but they did have Georgia Tech on the ropes earlier this year. Georgia Tech is a very good football team.
Yep.
And hangovers after these kind of emotionally charged games lead to heartbreak. And we've been fortunate, knock on wood, that it hasn't been us, but you see it every week around college football of, oh, that this just happened, and they turn around and lose to Stanford or whoever. Yeah. Wake has a top 60 offense and a top 40 defense. I mean, whichever way you look at it, they are solid. So SMU's got to start fast. You got to play from ahead. You have to keep the momentum from last week's win going. And it's just a scary trap game with Miami next week for homecoming. I mean, the game has 2024 Duke written all over it for me.
That's a really good one. That's good.
Unfortunately, I mean, the Vegas betting line opened at SMU -3.5. I think SMU covers, but I think this is a one-score game heading into the fourth, and I'm probably feeling more of a defensive battle, to be honest with you. Kevin, his ankle's been banged up. I want to take care of him for sure before Miami. I don't know what they're going to do because they're in kind of a tough spot with Ty Hawkins right now, who's played, I think, 3 games. I think this would be his 4th if he makes an appearance in this one, to where which way do you go? Do you roll Kevin out there and just see what happens, or do you try to hand it off to Ty and see what he can get done? I got 27-20. I don't think we break the 30-point mark here. I don't think that ultimately affects the win-loss, but I think this game's going to be a lot tighter than we're probably getting ready for it to be.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, there's very little reason to feel even after the win over Clemson, because let's be clear on this podcast, Clemson is not the same team that played SMU in the ACC championship. Talent-wise, they are. For whatever reason, they're not getting it done. They had some injuries as well. But when you look at SMU, I almost wonder if Kevin's injury is going to be a point where they can really try to focus the team in and lock in and say, hey, guys, we're banged up. We're beat up. There are some guys that might not play that they might try to hold out. I don't know what version of SMU is going to show up, but I think this matchup, at least on paper, very much favors SMU. I would say, if anything, to your point, and we talked about, SMU kind of, being, having this one be close and things like that. I could see this being under, like you said, but I could see SMU's defense really playing well. Like I'm almost there. I've just seen a lot of Robbie Ashford. I think he's similar to Ricky Collins in a sense. Deshaun Purdy had a really nice game against what do we call Oregon State, Power 4 group
4.5.
of 6. Yeah, 1 of 1. I don't know what they call them right now, but the way that Robbie has played throughout his career, it just doesn't inspire a ton of confidence going into this one. So I don't know. I see this one being like a 24-10 type of win for SMU. That's probably where I'm at with it. Maybe they can hit some explosives and kind of really open it up a little bit here, but I think 24-10, where again you're happy, you go on the road, you win, you get past it, and maybe you're able to kind of rest some guys. Maybe it's like where PJ Williams doesn't have to play all the snaps that he's played over the last week or so, and they can kind of rest him a little bit and get Andrew Chamblee in there. Maybe there's this, or maybe there's that. I don't know, but it screams under to me, like you said, and I'm going to go with 24-10 SMU. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's tough. It's so hard. I mean, this SMU team, I think their maturity level is going up as the season continues. But you still look at the earlier games, sandwiched the Missouri State game, sandwiched between two big ones, and you didn't really show up to play until the fourth quarter.
100%. Yep. So it's going to be fascinating. I'm sure this will be one that you guys should be on the message board at ontheponyexpress.com talking about and recapping it. But of course, you might as well look good rooting on the ponies as well. So make sure you check out our friends at roback.com, RHOBACK.com. Check out the official licensed SMU gear and use code PONY20, PONY20 for 20% off your first order. Again, that's your first order, so you'll have to create an account or something and to take advantage of it. But they have free returns and exchanges up to 30 days after purchase. So check out that SMU gear. Get right for the fall quarter zip weather that we're all so very much looking forward to. Of course, Hayden's rocking one of the polos right now as well. So Hayden, I don't know if you have anything else on this one, but this could be a fun little Saturday for us to go over Wake Forest and make a quick trip out there and then be back as we take the pod on the road for the second straight year.
I'm just ready to have some fall weather. I mean, it's supposed to be in the 40s in the morning in Winston-Salem, and we'll be about, I think it's in the mid 50s at game time, with probably in the low 60s by the time the game's over. I always love these games as an offensive lineman because it feels like you don't get tired. When you play these games early in the year and you're just dying, you can go probably 3 plays and you're just dead. But by the time you get to this part of the schedule, you can run these longer drives. I think that does play into SMU's advantage, coming from these hotter climates, even South Carolina. Well, it wasn't brutally hot. It was still a little warm in the afternoon. But you come from Dallas, where it's been 90 degrees this year. It's been unseasonably warm in the fall. And you get to go somewhere nice where you can put these drives together that are longer. I think guys will kind of have a little bit of a recharged feel. It always was for me whenever that you hit that first fall game. Guys just got excited to play. So that could be an angle to watch as well. I'm not making this into a forecasting weather podcast by any means, but I think guys appreciate now where you get to go in the ACC. It's your first trip out there. There will be some excitement still with this team. So could be interesting to watch. While I've got SMU covering, but at hitting the under, it would not shock me at all if this team has just hit another gear and they just take off with this one.
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit of an X factor, is how much confidence do you build from going on the road and beating Clemson. But you can build that confidence. How do you avoid it becoming a little arrogance or whatever? Which, again, this SMU team, it's like we said with the Stanford game before Clemson. Like, there's no reason to look ahead. There's zero reason to be arrogant. There's zero reason to kind of think you should roll or stat pad or anything like that. This is about getting wins, and whether it's ugly or whether it's comfortable, they need to get one this weekend, as getting a win this weekend would really tee up a nice little homecoming for SMU hosting Miami the week after. We can look ahead to that. The team can't, and that's why they're undefeated in ACC play. They've been able to kind of manage this so far. So we'll see how it goes. They look to continue their conference winning streak as well on Saturday at Wake Forest, 11 a.m. Central on the CW. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. Hope you guys enjoyed this preview of SMU at Wake Forest. We'll catch you next time. We'll catch you post game and Jonathan McGill will join us, and Hayden Howerton will be there. So make sure you guys are locked in for that. SMU basketball does scrimmage on Saturday against Oklahoma State for those of you in Dallas as well. Dean Rolski will be there covering that for us. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the pod, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks to all of our sponsors, Northwest Insurance Agency, Status Jet, Thomas Auto Group, Socorro Tequila, and many more. We appreciate you guys for listening. Hit that follow, subscribe, like button, and we'll catch you guys post-game after SMU at Wake Forest.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.